Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, Super Spreading Bitcoin 2022. Today is February the 17th of 2022. Strong hand, long-term thinking. There are no circuit breakers in Bitcoin. Solutions over sympathy. Innovation over interference. Buying over crying. All right, golden age of the 2020s. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. All these three guys, they're in motion. This is where the big boys play. I'm offended by selling. Compete, don't complain. All right, this is going to be an exciting one. It's a Thursday because I'm on the road tomorrow. So you're getting a special Thursday edition. Pound that like button, people, because Sam and Kyle are making their debuts on the show today. And Christian, of course, is back in the house. And we're going to talk about El Salvador and the United States, Canada. All these governments got to speak their minds, all these acts. But first, this is the part of the show where I'm supposed to promote the awesome April 6th to 9th Bitcoin Magazine event, Bitcoin 2022 in Miami, Florida. And I'm supposed to read this thing that I got here, and I'm going to read it. But actually, I'm taking a detour, and I'm starting with Christian because Christian freaking tweets out. I read all these guys. I read everybody's Twitter feed. I treat them like web pages. And I'm from Christian. He's telling me on his feed that Jordan freaking Peterson is going to be at the Miami event. Tell us about this, please. I was in shock, Christian. What is going on here?
Are you a Jordan Peterson fan?
I appreciate what he has brought to the table, and I listened to his interview with Saifedean when Saifedean was like orange pilling him. That was pretty darn cool. So he's a good guy. He's done good things for this world. I don't agree with him 100% on everything, but dude, what is up with that?
I mean, we are on a mission to bring in the biggest names in Bitcoin and to create the biggest, big tent event for everyone who could be interested in Bitcoin. So he was a obvious target as someone who we wanted to bring in, and we got connected to his people. And the timing was perfect. He was starting to get really interested in Bitcoin. He was starting to interact with Bitcoin magazine articles, and he said yes. So really excited to have him, and we're going to have some really amazing content.
Dudes, that's some insider information right there, because most of you guys aren't paying attention. This is a big, huge guest. This should convince some people that don't even like Bitcoin to come to the darn event. So it's 30,000 people might be hanging out there. Who knows what it's going to be? So yeah, Bitcoin 2022 is the largest Bitcoin event in the world that takes place April 6th to 9th in Miami Beach. Oh, my Lord. All 4 days will be jam-packed with exclusive content, exciting announcements, and an incredible lineup of Bitcoin speakers, artists, and leaders. Day one is Industry Day for enterprising Bitcoiners who are looking to build a business or career within the ecosystem. Days 2 and 3 are general conference days featuring speakers like El Salvador El Presidente, Nayib Bukele, he's been in the news lately, who has promised a big surprise. Christian, what is this big surprise? Give me a hint.
Dude, that's above my pay grade. They do not tell me those details.
They don't tell you that, and you were up there.
Man.
Whoa! They're going to be CEOs like Michael Saylor, Elizabeth Stark, Jack Mallers, Adam Back, and hundreds more. The conference caps off on the 4th day with the world's first and largest Bitcoin music festival, Sound Money Fest, headlined by rapper and fellow Bitcoiner Logic, Steve Aoki. I just read
Aoki.
Well, I can't pronounce his name. I'm from Baltimore. I can't pronounce a darn thing. But I've got a lovely accent, don't I? But didn't he just admit that he made more money on NFTs than he ever has in music or something like this? Was he the one who... Seriously.
Yeah, I saw that.
Probably. Yeah.
All right. I mean, so there's all sorts of people that are going to be there. There's some other artists that are going to be there. I can't pronounce their names either.
All of the artists got paid in Bitcoin, and what they're there to do is to entertain Bitcoiners. So we told them if you talk about shitcoins or NFTs, that it's a one-strike policy. So just go to the party, guys. Don't worry too much about Steve Aoki.
Whoa, dude, there are some strict rules for these dudes that are getting paid in Bitcoin.
Oh yeah,
all right.
Getting
So
paid in Bitcoin though.
Last year's conference sold out, and this year's is on pace to be 3 times larger. And dudes, we were super spreading all sorts of awesome stuff there last year. We're super spreading there. This year, it's going to be 30,000 people. Make sure you grab your tickets before it's too late. Visit b.tc/conference to learn more. Pay in Bitcoin, but I don't do that. I'm offended by some. To save and use promo code Adam10 for 10% off. And I will see you in Miami, and you can touch my hair. You can hug me. You could, it's
Adam gave me a hat last year. He gave me a hug, gave me a hat.
He
gave me a shitcoin minimalist hat.
Yes, I did. I love seeing Christian in person. Tickets prices increase tomorrow. Tomorrow, apparently, they increase. So, get it now.
True story.
So okay, I did the promo. So some of you who don't like promos, you can fast forward through that if you're watching this taped or whatever. Sam, are you going to be there? Kyle, are you going to be there? What's up?
Hell yeah, man! I'm very, very excited.
I do not currently have a ticket or plans to go, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, come on! Gotta get the Swan team to take you.
All right, there you go.
Yeah,
all right, dude. So that's enough for the promo. I'm very excited to have all these guests here, and we talked about Jordan Peterson. That's big news there. That's good. He's getting on the Bitcoin. Who would have imagined it a few years ago? So, we could talk about the Freedom Convoy. We could talk about the rumor that Biden is going to sign an executive order regulating crypto next week. This rumor's been going, but the main thing is that governments are interfering now, and they're not
hiding Bitcoin off exchange.
Yeah, well, I want to commend Bitcoin Benny up in Canada, all the guys up in Canada that some of us know, and that helped. Debanking is becoming mainstream. Would you guys agree with that? Some people think, it's fine. They don't deserve a financial. No. That's Bank of America should get that guy's mean. They should get rid of his account. That's cool. They'll never do it to me. But in Canada, they're bad guys. It's great that the Canadian banks that there's a state of emergency. This is normality now. It is quite unbelievable what is going on. So let's start with who wants to start off with their rant, their take on the Canadian situation here. Sam, you start off.
All right, yeah, I'll start. It's pretty disturbing, but I'm not very surprised because this has been going on a long time where the banking system, with Operation Choke Point, they basically choke off, industries that they don't agree with from access to the banking industry. Actually, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin industry was subjected to that early on, where they just couldn't get any banking partnerships. But now we're seeing it extended, very politicized, this weaponization of the financial system against anybody who's dissidents or goes against the political narrative is labeled terrorist pretty easily nowadays. And then they're realizing that censorship resistance is pretty important, especially when you have all your money just in these bank accounts that can just be turned off like that. And so I think it was really interesting that there was overreach of power by a democracy. Canada is a pretty respected democracy. And if it could happen in Canada, it can happen anywhere. And so when they did that, now we're seeing Canadians rush to the bank and try to withdraw money. And when you think about the fractional reserve system, and if that all happens at once, they should be shaking in their boots. So I think it's just a really interesting development and basically free marketing for censorship-resistant money like Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, the Canadians got to get on zero. Get rid of that freaking fiat. This should wake you guys up, but it's not waking most of them up. That's the thing. But most of them, it's great that
it's waking a lot of people up, Adam. I know you're a pessimist, but I believe in
this is for
people.
the,
It's
for the
waking people
80
up.
percenters, for the not the 20 percenters, for the 80 percenters. I'm and not pessimist is the wrong word. I don't like anything negative. I'm a realist. I think people would rather watch. They would rather watch their pretty prime minister. They're more entertained by his good looks than what he's actually saying. They're not listening to a word that dude says. But there was something I want to read here. I mean, this is surreal. Federal government invokes the Emergencies Act for the first time ever in response to protests. I mean, this is Canada living under a state of insane emergency. What is next? I mean, it's coming fast and furious. I'll tell you that. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect this in 2022, but good job for the truckers for triggering this situation, at least.
Well, the thing is, and we're seeing like across the globe, there's these trucker movement now, and governments are like dropping their laws before the truckers even land, because they're seeing that once the truckers land, it turns into a logistical nightmare trying to remove them. Because like these are big rigs and they're friends with all the people that can actually tow them. So it does actually turn into a little bit of a conundrum.
Well, I want to ask you, Christian, is this the biggest Bitcoin story of the year?
It's one of them for sure, especially to the Western world. I mean, the year's just getting started, y'all. Like we're in February. This is month number 2. So
yeah,
I think things are escalating quickly.
Okay, let's get Kyle in here on this.
Yeah, what Christian just said about the Western world is really important, I think. I mean, I think, over the years, like Bitcoin educators have always talked about how it's so easy to explain Bitcoin to people who live in Venezuela or in El Salvador or these places where they face this financial, terrorism all the time in the form of inflation or anything else. And for the very first time, we're sort of seeing this leak into the Western world. And so, like Sam said, I mean, it's just marketing for sound money. Like when people realize that their bank accounts can be frozen and their labor and capital, everything they've ever stored can be taken from them, what do you say? And I think what's important is like the tides turn quickly. Like people think that these people are wrong today, but in the future, who knows what they're going to say? It could be the people who are saying that the truckers are wrong are the ones being censored and getting their finances taken away. I mean, just financial censorship in general is not the way to go, and it's marketing for Bitcoin and for sound money.
Well, on that note, financial censorship will become easier for some soon. If you think GoFundMe stealing $9 million in crowdsourced funds from tens of thousands of people is bad, just wait until all our money is digitized through a central bank digital currency. All your money will be fully controlled by the state.
I'm bearish on CBDCs though, Adam.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
You're what?
I honestly don't think that they're going to ship.
You don't think they're going to have you don't think they're going to be able to pull it off? That they're not, that Western countries aren't going to do their own Fed coins, each and every one of them? I
think that Tether and USDC and those stable coins are like effectively they're going to get usurped by the American federal Fed. And they're going to kind of like absorb that into the US dollar system, and then everything else won't ship. Like I think that like CBDCs never ship. We see hyper dollarization and then hyper Bitcoinization.
I mean, I think China ships a CBDC. I think it's a lot easier for them to do it than the United States. I think it'd take years and years and years in Congress and
the US is already there. They have Tether. Like they had market solutions because people want dollars.
Mm-hmm. Well, wait a second, Chris, your theory is very interesting here. You're basically saying that our Fed coin kind of sort of exists already in a private form that the United States will somehow take over.
Yeah, I mean, like all of these actors are already bending the knee to the U.S. big time.
Tether hasn't fully bent the others are all regulated. They're all on a different plane. But
sure. I mean, yeah, I think that the path of least resistance is the government takes over all the stable coins, the U.S. government. That's the U.S. CBDC. It's already globally distributed. And then Europe never ships anything. Dude, they get fucked by the dollar way before they can actually ship anything.
Your theory, which makes sense, that I could see something like that happen. goes to my theory that the United States dollar will always be the world reserve currency in terms of fiat. I mean, that would empower the United States dollar so much among its peers. It's just like you said, there would be no need for a euro Fed coin at that point. They couldn't do it really. And interesting. I haven't heard that theory yet there of the other.
Talk to Ansel Linder more.
Yeah, I guess I gotta. I haven't seen him since Miami, since last year. You can see guys like meet him in person.
Yes,
that was my first time meeting him in person. Actually, it was in Miami.
That was the first time I met him in person too.
He's a big dude. He's
He's the man. Yes,
yeah,
bigger than me. All right, I'm gonna give the mic back to these guys. I just dropped my dollar thesis, so there you go.
I'll kind of take maybe a different approach to that. There's like 83% of central banks currently doing projects on CBDCs, and I do see them just failing on delivering just because they're terrible at tech. And honestly, I'm worried about Bitcoin going way up and then rushing a product out or something, and then it having like a critical bug in it, and then that would be catastrophic for a nation for their money be hacked, essentially. But I don't think they can do it themselves, and I think they'll go to the private sector into these regulated stablecoins and basically absorb them. But the question becomes, are they going to have the design of the CBDC be a token-based CBDC where it maintains the privacy of stablecoins, or is it going to be an account-based CBDC tied to a digital identity where they can deliver monetary policy directly through that CBDC? So there's a little difference in design. Like, I think they will absorb a private stablecoin, but it's the design of the CBDC that's really the question.
I guess my question, Sam, is who is they? Are you talking about the Fed, or are you talking about other? Because I think only the Fed can do that.
I'm talking about the Fed. I'm talking about the Fed.
Yeah, it's only the Fed that can do that, and who knows once they do it and take over, take over these private businesses.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if I don't know. Would Jeremy? What would that deal even look like? Like, like the Fed just. Would it be by law? Would it be like regulatory, or would it be just like
maybe they just turn them all into banks? They're fully regulated. They have to hold X amount of treasuries, and they're just a slave to the Fed now.
Yeah, for sure.
And then everyone else can get licenses to issue Tether too. Like that's the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
All right, Tether, CBDC, whatever, any of them. I think they just take them all.
This absorption stuff, man, I hadn't thought about it yet. Best freaking guest in the space I bring you guys on the This Week in Bitcoin show. They make you think if you're paying attention to them and not just looking at their pretty faces. And all of us,
Europe is fucked, y'all.
All right,
fucked. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right, move on. Let me read you this quote. The Ontario Provincial Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police, I'm the Mountie, ordered all regulated financial firms to cease facilitating any transactions from 34 crypto wallets tied to funding trucker-led protests in the country. Okay, so they're basically saying, hey, these don't convert these 34 addresses back into fiat. One thing, there's a lot of ways around that. First of all, they could actually move the Bitcoin to another address and then, try to convert it into fiat. I was trying to tell the truckers early on, get your circular economy going here, dudes. Accept Bitcoin and then pay other people in Bitcoin. Find lawyers, because you're all going to need some lawyers for a while, that accept Bitcoin. And, don't have to. So I can see what the horrifying Canadian government is trying to do by this blacklisting 34 addresses, wallets, whatever they want to call it. But there are definitely ways of getting around it. But the fact that they're doing this, again, the authoritarianism, it's out there. So do any of you guys want to comment on that aspect of this, the 34 blacklisted addresses? Christian,
Sam.
Yeah, Kyle, you go, man.
Well, I was gonna say it kind of speaks to their own being uneducated about the space as a whole. It's like, okay, you ban these 34 wallets. Like, what does that really do? Like, you can't move it. Like, it's just gonna move to another place, and it just proves to me that they don't know what they're talking about more than anything.
I mean, at the same time, though, I do want to say they don't know what they're talking about, but they do. There is still the need, unfortunately, when we're BTC, Benny, all these guys who set up this tally coin thing. We value our wealth in Bitcoin. Some of the people that were, or probably all the people who are getting this, they're thinking in the fiat mindset still, where they need to. They're getting this gift that they need to turn into quote unquote money to be able to spend for their expenses. And I the next time around, and who knows how soon it will happen, when there's a worthy fundraiser out there, I hope the people, I hope it's understood, like you got to create the circular economy. You got to find people that are willing to take your Bitcoin in this situation. And there are more and more people that are willing to do it. And then you don't have to worry about blacklisting and all this other nonsense. Exchanges aren't allowed to turn Bitcoin from this address into fiat. You won't have to worry about that. Anyway, I just that's why I bring up the story. I think it could scare a lot of people off when they hear about blacklisting and stuff. But for me, it's no biggie.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I mean, you're totally right about the P2P economy is the key here, because fiat is the choke point. And I think the most important thing is really that lawyers accept Bitcoin. Because if lawyers accept Bitcoin, then you effectively have like a very, very unstoppable, place to fund your legal defense. And then a lot of the other stuff, like, honestly, like when you think P2P and the truckers, like you should be thinking of like people walking into the convoy area with stuff and giving it to them, giving them cash, giving them gas, giving them food. So like that is like the nature of how P2P this thing is. And like, I think, between Bitcoin and just people like donating stuff directly to the truckers, it's a big deal.
I mean, there's some issues they've run into how are they going to physically distribute all the Bitcoin that they raised. They raised over 22 Bitcoin for these dudes. Mm-hmm. So there's different ways of setting this up in the future, where each individual trucker already has an address. There's lessons to be learned here. Definitely lessons to be learned. Sam, any thoughts?
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say. I mean, I think we learned a lot about, gifting Bitcoin has always been kind of a tricky endeavor. In terms of like the key management and everything. And so I think this really shined a light on Bitcoiners, like what we can learn from this of how to improve privacy tools and how to donate sats to a cause that we care about. Because right now it's getting like a little bit held up, even though that the addresses can be moved by the people who own the keys. They are blacklisted right now, and we have to figure out a way to get that down to the people who actually are supposed to be the recipients of those funds. So I think it's a learning lesson for Bitcoin, just as much as a kind of a showing the world what this network can do when everything else can be easily censored. So it's kind of like pros and cons. And I think it's all just kind of a good thing as long as we learn lessons from it and improve our own development on our side.
There's some people who are like, let's give all the truckers paper wallets. Dudes, that is not going to work out. It's just not going to work. It's hard. There's
a learning curve. Yeah. Like handling this stuff, like these truckers probably, how many of them understand Bitcoin, and let alone handling keys and all this stuff. So
the thing is that soon they will, like, right, and this is something that is like, really forcing them to dive into it en masse. So growing pains,
exactly.
And like once there's a P2P economy, once people actually can value Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, like all of a sudden this becomes really hard.
All right. Good luck to everybody in Canada. I mean, the situation continues to go on. I think it is the biggest Bitcoin story of the year so far. Definitely that people understand what unconfiscatable, uncensorable, and permissionless mean. Those who are paying attention at least will understand that. Hey, I want to say there's a lot of dudes in the chat right now. Johnny Midas, you got to contact me. Email me, DM me or something. Like, I got something for you. I got some interesting. And dudes, if you support the show, ask a question, do a super chat. We'll answer your questions. We only need a few more dollars to have another One Bitcoin show next week. There's a certain amount of money that has to be raised for me to do a show. We're almost there, like $30 some away. All right, let's let's move to the next subject matter here. Well, first of all, I wanted to read the inspirational tweet from Michael Krieger, Liberty Blitzkrieg, a big Bitcoin fan out in Colorado. It really does feel like Bitcoin is on the precipice of taking over the culture. And I gotta say, I think in a sense he's onto something. Bitcoin is mentioned more and more every day. It's mostly by haters, I gotta say. It kills the environment. It's used by terrorists and everything, but that still is pretty culture altering right there. So this is going to be a very interesting year for mainstream culture and Bitcoin jumping in. I don't know if we're all going to be pleased, because I think it's going to get there's a lot of screaming Karens out there that are very loud, that are going to, take this terrorist environmental narrative to like a whole nother level. But as I've told, just have a strong hand. Be notorious BTC, whatever. I've heard, I've seen a lot. It all comes and goes. I've seen it all. But get ready. But again, there's something out there. I don't know if you guys agree. Taking over the culture maybe is too positive of a spin on it. But it seems like something's about to erupt here in terms of Bitcoin and mainstream culture. So just wanted to throw that one out there if anyone's got anything to say.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I'm in college at the University of Alabama. I'm hearing about it every day, no matter what I'm doing. My textbook, actually, my finance textbook for my Finance 414 senior investments class, on the front cover is a Bitcoin symbol. And I could not even believe that. I almost tweeted it to David Bailey, because he graduated from the University of Alabama and we interviewed him on our podcast. But he was talking about how when he was in school and was talking about Bitcoin, everybody was just like, "You're insane. This makes no sense. Like, go find somebody else to talk to about it." And now you can't walk through the halls or have a conversation without hearing something about crypto or NFTs, the Super Bowl, the Coinbase commercial, or anything else. So I really couldn't agree more. I mean, the level of adoption is like increasing. The adoption curve, the rate is increasing.
Wow, it's on textbooks now.
Yeah, I have a picture.
Kyle, you should tweet it out and tag David Bailey. And no reason why David Bailey can't get you into the Bitcoin conference too, man.
Well, funny enough,
he's an insider.
This is great. This is good stuff here. Best guest in the space. Connections being made. All right, let's move on to something that's being in the news. This is freaky, man. That some of our senators care this much about El Salvador. El Salvador's Bitcoin adoption may pose risk to the United States financial system. Senators have introduced a bill that asks the State Department to review El Salvador's Bitcoin law and develop a plan to mitigate potential risk. Okay, so we've got these. I mean, these congressmen, they're Republican. I mean, senators that are proposing this bill are not just Democrats, are not just Republicans. One's from Louisiana, one's from Idaho. I forgot where the other one's from. Somewhere out east. But the point is that they're doing this because they think that this little teeny country out there, it's a way for it to get around sanctions, and it's a way they're worried about the United States dollar's dominance in the world. Is that what our senators should be worried about? I mean, it seems like it's too far. They're thinking about a law that against El Salvador, basically. And dude, what our leaders and some of our leaders are thinking about is like, let's make a Bitcoin legal tender here in the United States. This increases jobs. This increases productivity. This increases creativity. But no, they're thinking about stifling and destruction and loss of power. And it's typical of bureaucrats. It's typical of the government. And that's why the underlying theme through this show for this week in Bitcoin has just been government intervention. But who wants to start here on? We'll start with Christian. What's your take on? I mean, there was a funny tweet from El Presidente too, calling them boomers and everything, that they shouldn't be interfering in El Salvador's personal business in their. Yeah. So,
I mean, again, this is predictable. Like, why did we invade Iraq? Alex Gladstein would say, because we're trying to protect the euro or the petrodollar system. So, us trying to protect the dollar is part of what we do internationally. So I'm not surprised. With that being said, like, they're totally right, and the good thing that comes with El Salvador adopting Bitcoin is that they no longer have to answer to dollar institutions, right? They get off the dollar system, just like, Canadian truckers need to get off the Canadian dollar system. So that's happening on a nation state level. And, sorry, US, but we don't have to answer to you anymore because we're on Bitcoin now. And it's badass to see, El Salvador gain sovereignty because they adopted Bitcoin.
Yes, that's a very nice way, a positive way of putting it. They gain something instead of phrasing it in this way that it risks to the United States financial system that we're going to lose something because of this. I don't think we'll still have the United States dollar. We can, as individual citizens, we can still buy Bitcoin and everything like that. It is a threat to the way the United States sanctions other countries. That's what it is. But I mean, still, I think there's better things to worry about.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, that's my question is like, what is actually the worst case scenario? Like, they're not going to invade El Salvador for it, but like sanctions against their imported goods, like what are the things that the government could do to like make El Salvador, a living hell? Like, is there anything that they could do?
I think, I think this is about the IMF, and which is just an extension of the US, because the US has the most voting power within the IMF. And this totally, takes power away from them. And what the IMF can do is withhold $1.4 billion in loans that are coming in. And that's what they could really hurt El Salvador with right now. And it's complete. It's bogus, man, because, they justify these, they don't have authority to say anything about El Salvador. That's what President Bukele is saying, which is completely true. And so there's an outside foreign organization that's telling a sovereign nation how to manage its macroeconomic policies, which is just wrong. And that's what the IMF has been doing for way, way too long. And they justify it by saying it's going to bring about money laundering. It's going to bring all this stuff. But they have AML KYC laws that do not stop any kind of money laundering. Because what this is actually about is what CK was saying about they won't be able to push US interests and control their policies anymore if they go onto a Bitcoin standard. And so this is what it's all about. This is why they're writing this now. And they're afraid that other countries are going to do the same thing that El Salvador does, bigger countries like Brazil, Turkey, and that this just starts falling over.
Right.
Russia, right. Ukraine legalized it today. So, this is happening.
This is what
whether
I don't
like it or not.
That's what I don't understand, though, is that like the reserve currency in a lot of ways can be an attack vector against the United States as used by people like Russia or China or any other country. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of power that you hold from being the reserve currency, but it is in a lot of ways an attack vector, at least as far as I understand it. Do you think that's true or no?
I think that's 100% true. That you're seeing that with China right now. They basically, get all the cash, and then they used to buy treasuries with it, but now they use it to buy hard assets. That's kind of what Lynn Alden always talks about. And so the dollar system is actually used against the U.S. at this point, which is kind of unique or kind of ironic because they're trying to hold on to this system that we're actually being hurt by, essentially, by having the reserve currency. So this like exorbitant privilege of having the reserve currency, it's kind of fading over time.
But it needs to fade over time just because, like, otherwise, if it fades immediately, things are gonna turn really sour here because people are gonna realize how much shit we got just because we printed dollars. I don't think like people really understand like how nice lifestyle is in the US because of the Cantillon effect.
What is that? The Cantillon effect? I don't know what that is. Or I've heard of it, but I don't.
Though the closer you are to the money printer, the more benefit you get.
Okay.
So like if you earn dollars, you're by nature already better off than if you earn something else that trades against the dollar.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's like the banking system is the closest thing to the money printer, and like the New York Fed, like the way that money gets printed is just straight into the banking system, and they're the ones that are winning.
Now, what do you guys think about? I mean, the president of El Salvador. I mean, he's not pulling any punches. I'm kind of amazed by some of his tweets at this point. I mean, he's straight up calling them boomers and everything. I never would have envisioned a few years ago that there'd be a leader, even though it's a small nation, just speaking in this way on Twitter. I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess
it started when he adopted Bitcoin too.
Yeah.
Give him power,
What do the people of El Salvador think? I don't know.
I mean,
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Probably most of them aren't even on Twitter anyway to know what the heck he's darn saying.
The Chivo wallet sucks.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told too. Well, this is a very interesting situation. United States meddling in El Salvador's business. It will be interesting to see the next country that pops its head up and starts acting this way, because it'll be that much harder for those who want to contain this situation to contain this situation. So, no.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like we shouldn't be surprised, because this is what happens when the U.S. has abused that privilege and weaponized the dollar against these countries. And now they're saying, this is an alternative where I don't have to suffer from sanctions and get cut off at SWIFT, or if I don't comply with AML KYC laws and I don't have to pay all these fines. I can just use this alternative monetary system. So I don't think the U.S. should be really surprised by what's happening here, especially when they look at Russia's situation. And so I think it's just game theory kind of playing out.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep it in the U.S. here. Let's talk about Warren Davidson real quick. He actually was there last year in Miami, wasn't he, Christian?
Yes, sir. He was there.
Yeah, I actually shook his. Yeah. He definitely was there. All right. So. He's got
the
this,
people that you meet at the Bitcoin conference. It's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah. He was just walking around, and I shook his hand when he was walking around. But I'm thinking he spoke also. She spoke. He was on stage, and what's her face from Wyoming was on
Cynthia
stage.
Lummis.
Yeah. But so let's go to him, because he's definitely he sees what's going on in Canada, perhaps, and wants to get ahead of his. There are many authoritarians in the Congress who would love to go the way of Canada and take us down a road where it would be illegal to own Bitcoin, to own it a personal storage device. If you can own it at a third party, a registered third party. So he says, if passed, the KYC bill, and it's called it doesn't stand for Know Your Customer. It stands for something else here.
Keep your coins.
Keep your coins. My bad. It's Keep Your Coins. If passed, Keep Your Coins bill will protect the ability to act as a self-custodian and conduct peer-to-peer transactions. All right, this is good. I like that. It's sad that it has to come to this, that we have to worry about someone creating another law where it's illegal to do such things, but. To preserve the role of the dollar that's another one there. Sorry, I got confused. So, all right, who wants to speak? Kyle, your take on Warren Davidson.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to my boy David Zell, who wrote the article. He's doing great work at the Bitcoin Advocacy Group. And I mean, like you said, it's just sad to me that this is even something that needs to be communicated via a law. I need the government to tell me whether or not I can hold my gold. No, I mean, I just, it's shocking to me, but it's also a good thing, right? Because if this is passed, then we know that they can't change it, I guess. But I don't know. I'm happy about it, and at the same time, I'm sad about it.
Yeah. Sam?
Kind of similar sentiment, honestly. I think it reminds me of this talk Nick Newman of CASA gave a couple months ago. And he's we are kind of slowly losing that battle of Bitcoin being held in centralized custodians versus, in self-custody. And if it's really important, obviously, for a lot of different reasons that people hold their own keys. And so at Swan, we're obviously a KYC custodian, but we have free withdrawals, and we teach all our customers about self-custody. And try to encourage it as much as we can, right? And I just think it's really important as a community as we can continue to push the self-custody because you can see the reason that this law was even written is because there's an opposition on the other side that's thinking about like, how do we stop this from happening, right? And so, I think again, it just seems to me like a wake up call.
But on what grounds other than diminishing freedom? I mean, I just don't understand what what the opposition can say as like what their stance is, or what ground they can stand on.
Safety, protection of little old ladies,
money laundering. It's always money laundering, man.
Right. Well,
something that
prevent that money laundering.
It's safety has worked so well the last 2 years. They say it's for your own good. You got to do this. You got to stay home for safety. It's always going to be safety. It works like a charm freaking every time, man. It's unbelievable.
I want to talk about this book. So Sovereign Individual kind of talks about like states are organizations, and by nature, they just need to keep growing. And we're just getting to that point where it's a huge behemoth, and it just, every time it grows a lot comparatively to everything else at this point. So, I think that it's awesome to have so many Bitcoin politicians starting to emerge and like really be proactive about trying to protect Bitcoin. I think the US is going to be one of the best places to protect Bitcoin and then ship Bitcoin abroad. So I'm bullish on the US, and I'm bullish on Bitcoiners, really infiltrating into the system here as much as possible. I mean, obviously there's going to be counter forces, but this is a system that is, workable still comparatively to the rest of the world. So if there's going to be a place that has rule of law that enables freedom of speech and Bitcoin to proliferate, I think the U.S. is one of the best places.
And speaking of U.S. politicians, how many are you expecting this year at the Miami event?
Man, a lot. I mean, we have President Bukele, we have Cynthia Lummis. I know there's a handful more. I'm kind of blanking out. We have Joe Jurgensen, who is the leader of the Libertarian Party. So I know there's a lot of Bitcoiners and politicians.
Is she speaking? Is she going to be speaking?
She will be speaking.
Yeah, she's quite a character. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Well, I don't know that much about her, but Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami, will be involved, of course. So it's going to be a big affair, and more speakers will be announced, and you can check out the list right now on our site.
All right. Well, I want to go back to now. Here's a guy who will not be there. United States Senate Bank. I don't think he will. If he insane. Banking Committee Chief Sherrod Brown was not impressed by the Super Bowl ads, and he blasted the ad makers for not including appropriate warnings and risks involved. All right. What is up with this dude? He is also he's a senator from Ohio. We were talking about a congressman from Ohio, just talk with the act that we were just talking about. But this guy, Sherrod Brown, what's up his tuchlis here, man? We got these, and we'll talk about the Super Bowl commercials. But the first thing that comes to his freaking mind is that there weren't appropriate. This is a big loss that these guys are even advertising. What is going on here? I mean, what is up with this dude? Do you guys, I don't know if you guys watched this. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. Okay. I didn't watch the darn ads. We'll talk about it. I mean, I think that the Super Bowl ads for so many that were for cryptocurrency and whatnot, it's good. It's good for Bitcoin. It's waking up people. So I see it as a positive here. But here we got a guy that sees it as a total, it's good. More people are going to be tricked into Bitcoin because there were not warnings. So what is whose turn is it here? Kyle.
Yeah, I thought the commercials were good. I don't understand his point about advertising a currency, because that's not what they're doing. They're not advertising a currency. They're advertising their exchanges, Coinbase, FTX, etc. It's not an advertisement for Bitcoin. It's an advertisement to use the services of this American company that, by the way, in Coinbase's case, is listed on the stock exchange. Like, I mean, sure. I bet that if you went to that QR code, the one that blew up the internet or whatever, like Coinbase's big ad, there's probably warnings somewhere on there. There's probably a whole terms and conditions sheet that you have to sign before you can even log in that says all of the warnings about Bitcoin, about trading on their platform, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems like baseless to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, it's a way to get into, you know, complain and impress the screaming Karens, I guess. I guess that got on their good side. I'll get more votes from them. All right. And yeah, the name that I forgot beforehand, which now I just forgot his name again. The dude, the other guy from Warren Davidson is a good congressman. You can have all sorts of different people from these states. It's a swing state. All right, Sam.
Ohio's pretty based in general.
Yeah,
who's pretty based?
they allowed taxes pretty
Ohio
low.
in general. In general, for Bitcoin, they're going in the right direction. But I'll give the mic to Sam.
Well, I think Kyle nailed it, really. I mean, he totally nailed that. I would say it's just hysterical because you look at why is he giving a warning? Is it the volatility? And then you have Facebook dropping like 20%. Like, what are you even talking about? It's just, it's a clown market in a clown world. And he's just saying how Bitcoin itself needs a warning symbol. It's hysterical. It's nonsensical. In terms of the commercials, you know, obviously I wish that, like, I thought the FTX commercial, like, I'm a big Larry David fan, so I liked it. But at the end, if it just said Bitcoin instead of crypto, I would have really liked it. You know what I mean? So I thought it was kind of like a miss for certain, but it's all good, you know, all good for Bitcoin. I thought the QR code was kind of like a really great ad in terms of just getting people talking about it. And it was pretty unique. But then again, Coinbase just crashed. So, like, was that good? I don't know. But it's just kind of hysterical, the whole thing.
Coinbase crashing is usually a good sign. It's always
something's usually good. The certainty, that's for sure.
All right, Christian, your take on this Sherrod Brown, and if you like the Super Bowl ads.
So unfortunately, I was flying during the Super Bowl, so I missed it. But I would have loved to watch the Super Bowl ads. I should probably look them back up. But I'm pretty sure Coinbase repped Bitcoin pretty hard, which is awesome. I feel like these companies are either repping Bitcoin or they're saying crypto generally. So I think that's pretty in favor of Bitcoin in terms of which brand is actually gaining steam. And yeah, I mean, I think it's good for Bitcoin. So, like, this is where the money is. Bitcoin is the epicenter of our culture. I think, like, Bitcoin's a household name. It's becoming more and more relevant, even in the West. You know, people are seeing Canada. People are seeing, you know, what's happening. The Bitcoin conference is bigger than ever. You know, it's just, we're seeing it snowball. And I think, you know, this guy can cry about it, but he's probably going to get replaced by a more based person in Ohio because there's Republicans and Democrats running for Congress in Ohio that like Bitcoin. So
it was a big mainstream moment for Bitcoin that there were these Super Bowl commercials. Sure. You bring it back to 2016. This was only a dream to have tons of lots of Super Bowl commercials that involve Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or whatever. So yeah, it's a shame we have to talk about politics so much on the show. It really is. These guys they're all horrible. It's terrible that they interfere so much. It does bring me back to the original. We were talking about if they're going to be able to pull off a Fed coin. I don't know which of you brought it up, but these bureaucracies are so inefficient. You know, some of their threats are kind of empty. I don't even know if they could even pull off some of the threats that they dream of doing because they do not fully understand what this even is. So let them run around like little mice in circles and scream and try to do something but fail. That's an okay scenario, I guess. One thing that I wasn't planning on talking about, but we got a little bit of time here. BlockFi SEC settlement. They're going to pay $100 million penalty for what they did. Do any of you have thoughts on that, or even know what I'm talking about there?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Biden's supposed to come out next week with something, and I think it's related to these interest-bearing accounts and stable coins. So to go along with CK's kind of thesis, you know, I think Bitcoin's under their radar. I think they're just focused on stable coins and these interest-bearing accounts that are basically, you know, acting like money market funds and which require banking charter. So it's not really surprising to me that they were fined. And I'm hesitant to say it provides regulatory clarity because I think next week we're going to get some real regulatory clarity, or I think that's what they said. Biden was going to come out with something. So I think it just makes sense that they were fined, because even being a Bitcoiner, it looks like a money market fund, and it's just not really surprising to me, I guess.
Yeah, well, the cool thing that you bring up there, these stable coins and these third parties that play all these games, they can be shields for Bitcoin. The bureaucrats can say, oh, look, we got rid of these people, and it's a bad thing for Bitcoin, even though it had nothing to do with Bitcoin. All right, Kyle, your take on that.
I honestly don't know much about it. I don't know what the lawsuit entails or what they are saying that they did. So I don't have anything really to say about it.
Christian, did you have any thoughts on it?
All right. Yeah, no, I'll jump in. Yeah, again, like the SEC is really concerned about kind of stamping out what they can enforce against. And, this is a low hanging fruit. I think like what Adam said, that, this is a shield for Bitcoin. I think that two things are happening here. We have Bitcoin, which is anti-fragile, and then we have, the Hydra of shit, which is, stable coin products, shit coins, shitcoin trading, all this stuff that I shouldn't be, referring to in that way on the show. But, this stuff is hard to clamp down on, and it takes real bandwidth from the SEC. Like the SEC can't just wave a magic wand and say, stop. So, the easiest people for them to go after are, these interest providers and all this kind of stuff that are actually like registered companies in the US. How many ICOs have people got away with? I still don't know. So it's a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, Christian, you got to get out of here pretty soon. I want you, obviously, we've talked a lot about the awesome event coming up in April 6th to 9th in Miami, but you're going to actually be in Sacramento beforehand with the Bitcoin Day, guys. And I'm going to be in Oklahoma City with them. You might not know that, but
they're awesome.
Yeah, the Bitcoin Day. So tell us what you're doing. Tell us about Sacramento. Tell us about Bitcoin Magazine, anything.
Yeah, no. So Bitcoin Magazine, we're about to release our next print magazine. Obviously, we're putting on the Bitcoin conference. So April 6th through the 9th, you've heard about it plenty on the show. So check that out. And Bitcoin Day, that is this weekend in Sacramento. So if you are in California, come to Sacramento. It's just Saturday. Use promo code BTC MAG for $50 savings. And I'm going to be giving 2 talks. So should be a good time. Really excited for it. And Bitcoin Day in general, they have like 7 events planned across the country this year in 2022. Bitcoin Magazine is sponsoring them just because we love what they're doing so much. And, real hardcore Bitcoin content. It's really what they're going for is like kind of like a super meetup, a one-day conference type thing. So a lot smaller than the Bitcoin conference, but, a really great time. And yeah, really recommend checking out bitcoinday.io in general.
Yeah, so it is linked to below, specifically the Oklahoma City one, which I'm going to be at on March 26th. So I really like what they're doing. Also, obviously, I'm part of it. So yeah, cool. Anything else going on, Christian? Anything final thoughts? Any stories that were left off? Since you got a
I agree with Adam that, what's happening in Canada is the most important thing in Bitcoin today, right now. I think that it's turning into a global movement, and it's showing people power in the face of a lot of totalitarianism that we've been witnessing the last 2 years. So you love to see it. And I think that a big part of it is educating people about Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin stands a lot to gain from it.
All right, cool. All 3 of these dudes are linked to below. So follow Christian and all these dudes. Thank you much. I know you got to get out of here, but we'll talk now to Sam to tell us what you're doing at Swan, or any stories you want to bring up. Anything. The floor is yours.
Well, man, I agree with CK. I think education is key here. I think that's how we get the next, 10 million true Bitcoiners who not only own it, but understand it. And so recently, Swan, something I worked closely with, we released the Bitcoin Canon, which is basically just curated rabbit holes by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. A lot of Bitcoin educational resources were grassroots from the ground up, from, blog posts, podcasts, YouTube videos. I spent a lot of time archiving and collecting all of the Bitcoin content and history. And we are just trying to make it an easy one-stop shop so people could easily learn about Bitcoin specific topics. So like I did one on quantum computing. So all of it's right in that rabbit hole, easily shareable. So if somebody says, hey, Bitcoin's bad for the environment, you can just share them a rabbit hole. So it's called the Bitcoin Canon. If people want to go check it out, we released it yesterday, and something that I'm really proud of.
Dude, that is awesome. Make it organizing everything. Just there's been, I've seen so much over these last almost 10 years or whatever, however long I've been in, so much content, and it's good to get it all organized. For those of you interested, you can see all 2,050 of the videos I've been involved at disruptmeister.com. And you can see how this thing has progressed. See how happy I was when Bitcoin got to $3,000 or when it got back to its all-time high of $1,200. All sorts of fun things in the archives. Disruptmeister.com.
Yeah.
What a freaking ride it's been, and I'm glad you're chronicling that freaking ride over there. And it's been an impressive history. People should know their history. So few people know, so few people in the space today. And it's not their fault. They're new. They just came in the last 2 years. They have no idea. And they get freaked out. They have weak hands because they don't know that, similar stuff has happened before. When it drops in price, it comes back. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
I just like to resurface like OGs like you guys too. Like when somebody's a newcomer in 2021, they might not know about an awesome blog post in 2015. And so trying to like resurface really good old content, get old Bitcoiners, older Bitcoiners work out in front of new eyeballs. Like that's part of what drove me to make this too.
Dude, it's so awesome that you basically just called Christian an OG. And the funny thing is, now that he's off air, and I've done this.
I was calling you an OG, brother.
No, but you called both of us. You said OG. You said it plurally, so I know you meant both.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to tell you a little story about Christian. And I've told this story before. And those of you could go to the archives in January of 2018. I met Christian in person for the first time in South San Francisco. There was a huge crypto conference there. Okay. It was ICO mania back then. And Christian he was just a regular dude. He was a regular freaking kid back then. He didn't work for anybody. He wanted to meet me. We hung out and everything. It was his first appearance ever on a Bitcoin show. We did it live from there. You can see him as a cute little kid there in 2018. You should put that in your freaking archives, okay?
Yeah, man, I'll get that.
I gave him all the credit in the world because he was in motion. He got the jobs, and he's a big-time Bitcoin. Everybody knows who Christian freaking is now. But you can see his first appearance. Everybody, go to disruptmeister.com. Early January of 2018 in South San Francisco. It's pretty funny stuff. Him and me out there. But over time, everybody becomes an OG. When I got in 2013. I was like, oh man, I'm kind of new here. And, these people have been around since 2011. And now I'm like the great grandfather of this. I mean, so few people have been around since 2013 that are still vocal at this.
Yeah, point. You stuck around. That's great.
Man, I've got conviction. It's not just a saying, baby. It is a freaking lifestyle. All right. So so we're talking about 2013. Back in Kyle was just in middle school back then. I mean, it's seriously, this dude, Kyle's like born around the turn of the millennium. Freaking. So, what are your final thoughts? What are you up to, Kyle? Talk about your freaking awesome show that you're doing. The perspective you've got the 2000s perspective on this, man. The really, really young dude perspective, which is a really important perspective to get, because you're the super future. So take it over, Kyle.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm 22, born January 6, 2000. So six days after the turn of the century. I'm a college student at the University of Alabama. I run a podcast called The Lewis and Kyle Show. Me and my buddy Lewis interview really incredible people and publish roughly one episode a week. Sometimes we miss, sometimes we don't, but we're closing in on episode 100, and we've done just like really incredible people. It's been a very rewarding experience for him and I. I would say one last thing would be, I've known about Bitcoin for a long time, but our podcast with Guy Swan, Crypto Economy, was something that really, really blew my mind, because I asked him about, I don't remember how I framed the question, but I asked him about, all these different problems, healthcare, blah, 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 just sort of went down a laundry list. And he was like, you're talking about the leaves of the tree, and the trunk of the tree, the roots of the tree is the money. And that's what you have to realize. And sound money is extremely important for not only the sake of transferring, dollars from me to Sam or me to Adam. Sorry, Bitcoin. It's much deeper than that, and the problems that sound money can solve are much deeper than that. And I think that it's important to remember the humanity aspect of all of it.
All right.
Well said.
Well, the tree of life, very good. Guy Swan is a smart dude, man, bringing all that together there. It's all interconnected. All right, guest, best freaking guest in the space. Thank you for your time, loyal watchers of the show. Pound that like button. I usually say Shabbat Shalom, but usually it's a Friday, but it's a Thursday. Tomorrow I am driving to freaking Farmington, New Mexico, on my way to eventually be in Las Vegas, of course, for Unconfiscatable on March 3rd to 6th. I hope to see some of you, a lot of you guys there at Tone's event. We'll keep on talking about that. But again, dudes, if you're watching this tape, pound that like button. Have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom. Anyway, and thanks a lot. See you guys next week. Thanks. Pound it.
Later, guys.
All right. Hang on. Let me end it on our end.